Welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast right here on Citizen TV. It's time for the news review with me, Fred Indemuli. This morning I'm joined by Jesse Odwor, an advocate of the High Court, to help us look at the headlines this morning. Good morning and karibu sana.
Asante.
Yes, Bwana Wakili, of course, quite a lot of news to do with the judiciary, the legal fraternity. The Law Society held its election yesterday.
Yeah.
You have a new president this morning, Alan Wayaki Gichuhi. He now becomes the 48th president of this 70-year-old society. What is the feeling? Was it as expected? The problem is there was a very poor turnout. This is not what was expected because out of 36 stations countrywide, only about 4,000, 5,000 people voted. I'm sure even the membership of the LSK is at least triple that.
Yeah, first, let me start by congratulating our new president, Alan Gichuhi. Congratulations are in order. Well fought, well win. And also to congratulate all other contestants who vied but did not win, including James Mwamo. But then now, the reason why I think to a very large extent there was a low voter turnout was the hashtag by one of the candidates who was not on the ballots in the name of Nelson Harvey. The hashtag age limit must fall actually played a big role. Then dynamics change more so in professions, especially the legal profession. Most of the lawyers right now are very young lawyers, and they are the majority. I think they should be above over 70% of the lawyers are young lawyers. And then now they identified so much the age limit must fall. To them, it looks like it's discriminatory for them not to vie for some seats, and therefore for them not to show up was actually a protest to the LSK Act with regard to the age limit, and therefore I believe it played a big role in the low voter turnout. Yes. And
I'm trying to look for that hashtag age limit must fall. But yes, it's something fresh either way. You have a lawyer who doesn't look very old. He might have been there for a while, Alan Gichuhi. He's a member, he's a senior partner at a firm. I can't find the name here, but he is an established lawyer. Have you interacted with him at any point?
Yes, I have interacted with him on a personal level. Alan is a fine lawyer, one of the most respected lawyers in town, and I believe that he means well for the society. But then, as much as he has won these elections, we now need to heal the rift between the society. We have to reconcile the old order and the new order of the young lawyers who identify with the age limit must fall. That is, I think, his biggest challenge so far. One thing that I know, if he doesn't make it, then if he doesn't reconcile that, then the next elections after 2 years, then he might have it rough. This is in light with the outgoing council. Remember, they vied on the platform of Okoa LSK, but then all the things that they stood for and campaigned for, they never implemented any. That's why if you look at this council, it's a fresh council. All the other council is everyone has gone home.
And what were the issues apart from the age limit controversy? What were the other issues that lawyers were really looking to sort out in this election? Because yes, as you say, most of the council members are now out. Now you have a new president, but what are the kind of unique to this society that you were looking to change?
There are so many things, including the first thing was the age limit. Then most of them are actually practice matters, what we call bread and butter issues, and the remuneration of advocates, the medical cover. There are so many things that the society that's actually played role in this election. Unlike the other election, it was only one issue about the arbitration center. But this now, people have moved that, and that is also unresolved. So lawyers are also looking into that. I mean, it's one of the biggest projects we're having. But then the way it was managed by the council before the outgoing one wasn't really well. And then right now we are moving. The one council has finished 2 years without even touching that issue. So that is still pending there. It's still the big elephant in the room that no one wants to address. So matters of practice, matters of welfare, matters of practice more so with regard to conveyancing. There are laws that we need changing, and even the vibrancy of the society itself. We felt that the outgoing council wasn't vibrant enough, wasn't coming out when real issues are happening. We had to push them to even issue a statement. when issues of national importance are happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've finally managed to trace that hashtag, the trending hashtag, age limit must fall. And yes, incidentally, Nelson Harvey is one of the ones who started the hashtag.
Yeah.
Is the one who's tweeting most about it. And yesterday, he tweeted, "I will be at Milimani Law Courts polling station at 11:20 a.m. to vote for James Aggrey Mwamu for LSK president." Of course, Aggrey Mwamu did not win, so double loss for Nelson Harvey. Yeah, he was barred from contesting, and his preferred candidate in that election for LSK did not win because he says, "I'll be voting for James Aggrey Mwamu for LSK president because he has undertaken to facilitate a motion to remove age and status limit for eligibility to run for office." That's under the hashtag age limit must fall. And it's basically Nelson Harvey using that hashtag. But you mentioned something that the previous council, the previous LSK president was not as vocal in as far as matters to do with what is happening even in the judiciary. I've just come from a period where the judiciary has come under a lot of appear to be under siege, probably from the executive, that the executive seems to be intent on controlling a few things within the judiciary. The LSK appeared quiet. Is it one of those things that you would want the LSK to be more vocal about, defending the independence of the judiciary?
Definitely. First, let me go back to the Harvey factor and Mwamu. I believe to some extent, actually, the endorsement of Mwamu by Harvey actually worked to Mwamu's disadvantage. Nelson Katz is a very abrasive lawyer. When he has a stand, he has a stand. That's a good thing. But then now, at that point, what message are you sending to the society with regard to people who are supporting Allen? People who don't believe in what you're standing for, and you support another candidate who wasn't aligned to you. So that definitely means
by
it was a protest vote.
Making public his preferred candidate.
Yes,
it may have worked against
him. It might have worked against him, actually. Wow. And I think the dynamics of politics change, actually. That was I think to some extent a protest vote, not voting for somebody but voting against someone.
But interestingly, Nelson Harvey was probably the figurehead for this age limit must fall.
Definitely,
campaign. And yet there was a boycott by most people who thought that because of the age limit, because they were locked out, they would not take part in the voting process at all. Probably that's why there was a poor turnout.
Definitely.
But Nelson Harvey himself voted.
Yeah, you know, as a leader, he can't decide who is going to vote for who, or whether he votes for himself. You can't force your followers or your supporters to go and vote. But him not being on the ballot played a very big role in the lower voter turnout for the lawyers, simply because majority of lawyers are young people, and the ones who identified with them, actually there are those who actually said can't buy, won't vote, of course with identification to Nelson Harvey, meaning that those who are aligned and believe with what he stood for, then decided, if I'm not going to vote for the candidate I want, then as well don't go and vote.
We're talking about serious professionals here.
Definitely.
These are lawyers. Well, they call each other learned friend, surely. Don't you think it's a bit self-defeatist when you decide not to take part in an election that will determine the future of your profession and career, at least for the next 2 years?
Not really. It depends on who you're looking at, because at the end of the day, you can't take this. For you not to exercise a right, and to, in a way, it's a protest, and you're exercising a right, you're trying to send a message to the council and the people that this is not right. But then I see a scenario where we are going to have an annual general meeting, and a motion is going to be passed, because at the end of the day, it's the annual general meeting that is the overall authority of the Law Society of Kenya. So I'm seeing a scenario where there's going to be a motion to amend the the LSK Act with regard to the age limit.
Yes.
So that was just laying ground.
But even if that is amended, it will only you can only use
because
that
it will be subsequent
after
after 2 years to the next election, which of course at the end of the day, the age limit must fall will have their way. Now, with regard to the outgoing council, whether they've been vocal enough, or with regard to issues of judiciary and things of national importance, to a very large extent that has been true. They haven't been vocal enough, and at even some point with regard to the last general election, there was a clear split between the council, where the LSK, for instance, applied to be amicus curiae in the Raila Odinga to the Raila petition. And then some members of the council, including the outgoing vice president and a council member, swore an affidavit and said that that is not the position of the council. I mean, this is something that is of national importance. And it is provided for in the Law Society Act, where it provides that the society, the council, and the society itself have the mandate to uphold public interest litigation matters and to direct with regard to matters of constitutional matters. So when it reaches a point where judiciary, for instance, is under attack by another arm of government, specifically the executive, and the Law Society is quiet, and the masses and the electorate are looking up to the Law Society to protect and give them direction, then it doesn't work well for us. And
there was a lot of talk, just connected to what you're saying, that even the politics within LSK was simply mirroring the national politics. That LSK was actually split right in the middle between supporters of Jubilee and supporters of NASA, that lawyers actually separated their interests that way, and it really affected even the kind of voting that we see. Is that true?
It started, yeah, to some extent, but then not. It actually didn't materialize, because as someone who is in the profession, I can tell you for free that if you want to play the tribal card and looking at lawyers' ethnicity, definitely NASA have more lawyers than Jubilee. But then one thing, that is a fact. But one thing I want to...
NASA or community is perceived to
community be NASA perceived to be NASA strong, to be NASA leaning. But then I want to congratulate lawyers, by the way. At least they stood above the political angling and the tribal angling that started towards the end of the campaign, the propaganda of ethnic alignment. And I actually think it is a good challenge to the country. They stood and we said, no, we are not going to go tribal. We are going to choose people based on what we want. Because if you even look at the new council, the face actually reflects the face of Kenya.
But how much of an influence do politicians have on these elections?
Of course, politicians...
Did they meddle at any point? Did they try to influence how the lawyers were going to vote and who they should vote for?
I think very minimally. If they did, then maybe I think just financially, but then not directly. But then at the end of the day, I don't think they had their way. Lawyers had their way at the end of the day.
Yet we know that there are some very serious lawyers who are also very serious politicians. You said they had no effect at all on what happened yesterday?
No, at the end of the day, it was, I think, about the candidates and what you stood for, and especially what the lawyers thought was more important to them. Which I'm actually proud of, that we did not decide to go political way. Of course,
now there's a lot to be said about what has happened with the judiciary. The kind of criticism that came through a letter written by the Jubilee head of secretariat, Raphael Tuju. You've just discussed how the LSK appeared to be quiet about that. What would you have preferred to happen? What would you have wanted the LSK president then, Isaac Okero, to have done on that matter?
In fact, surprisingly, they say that Raphael Tuju is actually a CS nominee. By him even writing the letter to the CJ and attacking the judiciary the way he did, actually he fails Chapter 6 of the Constitution. At that point alone, the Law Society of Kenya should have actually moved a motion, actually moved to the High Court to disqualify this SG for Jubilee from holding a public office. I mean, the only institution that holds this country together at the end of the day, when the politics have settled, when the politicians have abused each other and done everything, and ethnic hypertension have gone so high and everything, and the mud is, it's the judiciary at the end of the day. So when you attack the judiciary in a manner that a CS is attacking, then everyone should actually frown upon it, and everyone should actually stand with the judiciary. And therefore the silence of the outgoing council wasn't well for us, not just for the society, but for the whole country.
Wow. I'm looking at some of the hashtags here, and this is a hashtag LSK elections. Let's just take a look at what people are saying. And apart from the position of LSK president, there are other posts that, and there was council members, but there was also vice president of the society. How effective is that position, because we saw some female candidates going for it. I'm not so sure who emerged victorious in that process.
That was Harriet Chigai, the vice president, the new vice president.
Who was going head to head with Joy
Ndivo, yes.
Yes. So Harriet won that particular contest. But how important is that position? Because not many people can even tell you who was vice president under Isaac Okero.
No, the vice president was actually more powerful than it was actually more powerful vice president. That was Faith Waigwa. Yeah, and the vice president actually, of course, deputizes the president of the Law Society. In the absence of the president, he's the voice of the society. But then the president doesn't work alone. He works with the council. Before he actually gives a statement, the council has to resolve and have a common stand. So he's the mouthpiece of the council. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me sample some of the tweets here with the hashtag LSK elections. Mohammed Hersi, at Mohammed Hersi, he says, looks like lawyers are as tribal as the average voter going by the early results. Oh, what a shame. Now, this is a perception out there. Some very nasty tweets as well about what's happening. Yes, Nairobi-based lawyer Alan Wayaki Gichuhi elected LSK president. Those are some of the tweets. No woman had qualified to be on the LSK elections. I think this is someone who wanted a woman candidate to run for president of the society. Incidentally, how many female candidates have ever run and actually became successful?
Yeah, we have several. In fact, there was actually a woman who was vying for president but later withdrew her candidature. We have the CS for Defense, Rachel Mamo was at one time the LSK president. So we've had several. But then at the end of the day, you can only vote for the candidates who have availed or hold themselves to
because it appears like they actually reserved, they preferred to go for the vice presidential position. Why is that? Is it purely coincidental?
No, I think it depends on the dynamics of policies. But right now I'm hearing what moving forward, what the female lawyers are saying, that the next upcoming elections they now want to go for president. We encourage them to go for that. Yeah.
There's someone here who had predicted this 17 hours ago. Mark my tweet, the winner will be James Agrimwamu, LSK president, Harriet Chigai, deputy president. Okay, 50%. You got 50% at the brand Masharia Mwangi there. You got 50%. If at all it was an exam, that would have been a fail. I want us to move on to another issue still to do with what's happening at the judiciary. I'm still looking for more tweets to do with LSK. But yeah, just looking at what happened yesterday, away from the LSK elections, with the nullification of the election of Governor Martin Wambora of Embu. We saw what happened in Mombasa. Ali Hassan Joho's election was upheld by the High Court. There's a new trend that we've seen this time around, and LSK actually voiced its opinion about this, and this is the costs being handed by the courts to the losing petitioners. Just yesterday, Hassan Omar, the former senator of Mombasa, who was a petitioner in that case challenging the election of Ali Hassan Joho, after he lost in the petition, is now required to pay 8 million shillings. Now, that's not the highest cost. There are people who have been handed bills of 12 million, some as high as 60 million. Yes, 67 million shillings. Now, this has not always been the case, because we've not been talking, election petitions have been there for a while in previous electoral processes. Why is it that this time round, this issue of cost has become a matter of concern?
I'm glad you brought that up, Indumuli, and it is worrying actually, and from where I sit, it is a practice that should be discouraged big time. I happen to be among the lawyers, together with Mwanza Ombati. We did the petition for Wajir gubernatorial, and we won the petition and sent the governor home. Of course, he has appealed. But on the issue of cost, of course, it's a prayer that it's prayed for in the petition. On the issue of the cost, we had a
so the petitioner has to apply?
Yes, you have to. Of course, the costs follow events, but then it must be a prayer. You pray for costs
without quantifying. You just say with costs.
Because, no, you have sometimes you quantify. Some judges insist you have to quantify the instruction, the instruction fees, and then now the other incidental costs will have to be taxed later. But then now we come from the school of thought that we believe that personally with my senior Mwanza Ombati, we believe that a litigation should not be punitive to the litigants at the end of the day. And when you look at the Wajir gubernatorial, I think it's one of the lowest costs that have been awarded by the judges in the recent election petitions. We were given only 2 million, and this is the governor. And then how do you explain where a member of parliament is slapped with 8 million, 10 million? I mean, we believe that at the end of the day, when parties go to when they go to the shrine of justice, the courts, it is not about enrichment. It's about protecting their rights and feeling that they have been aggrieved. And they believe that something did not go well with the elections. So in the event that you lose a petition, you should not be penalized for it. You shouldn't be punished like the winner now is more enriched. And it is a bad trend, I have to say, it is a bad trend, and we hope that you're going to have a chance one day to challenge it at the Supreme Court moving forward. Because what this actually means is that when people lose elections, they will not go to court because the repercussions are too big. When you don't have the money,
probably there should be. Otherwise, everyone will be challenging an election on flimsy basis.
Not flimsy basis, but by the time you move to court, you know you're required to pay a deposit before you even file that. When you're at the time of filing, I mean, you have to file $500,000. It's not small money in this country. I mean, when you slap a litigant with 67 million, 13 million, 12 million, you must not. I mean, I think you don't live in this country. Even for the politicians and the people in high positions, that is not money that they come across easily. And this is going to set a bad precedent in that, moving forward, people will not want to square it out in the courts, but they will go and square it out in the streets. Simply because if I move to court and I lose this petition, I'm going to be slapped with another bill. And if you don't pay that bill, trust me, auctioneers are going to come for you. So rather than going to court, people will square it in the streets. And it's a bad precedent that should be frowned upon. We should actually revisit how we are going to we are going to dismiss petitions with cost, and how much are we going to cap the cost as?
Wow, it is very interesting because after losing an election, you file a petition which will cost you, and then you're slapped with a 13 million shilling bill. Probably we're looking at a possibility of quite a number of Kenyans being rendered what do you say? Being rendered bankrupt and broke.
And with that also, you know, what they're not telling you at the time being slapped with this cost, you've also paid your lawyer to do this. There are also money involved about transportation and all that stuff. There is so much involved at the end of the day. So this is someone who has lost an election. Of course, he believes that something did not go right, which to some extent, the judges will agree that, of course, something went wrong, but not so wrong to nullify these elections. But then at the end of the day, common line, this person is aggrieved, and then you punish him again with more costs.
Wow.
It's not fair.
Double trouble, double
tragedy.
Double tragedy for quite a number of these petitioners, but that's just the way of life. Of course, the deadline for handling and determining all these petitions comes up next week. At the end of this month, no more election petitions, so that's why we're getting quite a number of rulings, some of them coming up today, and we'll be getting to look at that as well. Let's take a break. We'll be back to look at more headlines.